Your raise just landed and somehow it already has hands. The email says, more money. Your brain says, finally. For one night, everything feels lighter. Rent feels less rude. Groceries stop looking like a hostage note. The car repair you have been ignoring suddenly seems less dramatic. You open your banking app, even though nothing has changed yet, just to admire the future. Then the mechanism wakes up. Before the first bigger paycheck arrives, your phone acts like it got copied on the email. A nicer apartment appears. A better car follows. Dinner delivery waves politely. A new phone clears its throat. None of it feels reckless, because each upgrade arrives dressed as reasonable. That's how lifestyle creep sneaks in. Spending rises with income, and former luxuries start feeling normal. If those choices become monthly obligations, the raise can be absorbed before you ever feel richer. Maybe some of this new money truly has a job already. Relief counts. But next, watch the phone start shopping for you. At first, the upgrades do not feel like upgrades. They feel like catching up. The apartment is not luxury, it's just quieter. The car is not fancy, it's just less embarrassing. Delivery is not wasteful, it's survival after a long day. That's how lifestyle creep sneaks in. Spending rises with income, and yesterday's luxuries start auditioning as normal life. One more subscription is basically a rounding error, which is what every subscription says right before joining a monthly committee. Then the raise gets hired permanently. New habits, housing, transportation, dining, and subscriptions become monthly obligations, and future you never even sees the candidate list. And honestly, some of this may be needed. A raise can cover rent, food, childcare, debt, transportation, medical costs, or relief after a rough stretch. That's real. This example is only about the dollars that were flexible. Because the trap is not one villain purchase. It's tiny, harmless cards pulling on the wallet until the bigger paycheck starts feeling normal. So you celebrate. Nothing ridiculous. A dinner out, maybe the place with the heavy menus, where the prices do not have decimals because apparently decimals are for the lower classes. You deserve one good night. That part is not the problem. Money should sometimes make today better. A raise that only produces guilt is just a spreadsheet wearing a tiny judge wig. The mechanism is quieter. The treat gets stored in your brain as proof of your new level. One dinner becomes the normal Friday plan. One convenience becomes the default. One small upgrade becomes the thing you would now hate to give up. Then the bill stops feeling like a celebration bill and starts acting like rent for your identity. Lifestyle creep is that shift, where former luxuries become normal spending or perceived necessities, and recurring habits can absorb the raise before you notice. Maybe one dinner stays one dinner. Maybe it does not. Watch what turns permanent next, because the phone is about to invite more chairs to the table. Then payday arrives, and there it is, the bigger number. Not yacht money, unless the yacht is inflatable and emotionally unwell, but enough to make the kitchen table feel different. Imagine the new take-home money is $500 a month. That's only an example, not a magic number. For some people, the raise is smaller. For some, it immediately meets real pressure, and there's no shame in that. But when the money is unassigned, recurring spending can introduce itself politely and then move in. A car upgrade, delivery habit, phone payment, and 2 tiny subscriptions wearing fake mustaches can turn new income into monthly obligations. The consequence is sneaky. After a few paydays, the bigger paycheck can feel normal, while your flexibility looks exactly the same. Protecting part of it before the spending apps notice can preserve options for future you. You don't know yet which version wins. Now, the kitchen table gets crowded. Housing pulls up the biggest chair first, because housing always acts like it owns the place, and often it does. Transportation slides in next, with keys jangling. Food arrives with a large bag and a face that says, "We need to talk." Healthcare, insurance, and other regular costs are already in the room. The squeeze is not mysterious. Household spending is built around large categories, like housing, food, transportation, healthcare, and personal insurance or pensions. So when the bigger paycheck lands, it does not walk into an empty room. It walks into a room with standing reservations. Then a few new permanent extras join them. A nicer commute cost, more takeout, one subscription, one upgrade that renews every month. The raise can be absorbed before it ever feels like progress. Your table may not match this one. Some raises have to cover basics that were already underfunded. But once an upgrade becomes a recurring bill, it starts negotiating like rent. Next, watch the raise itself try to survive the month. The Bureau of Labor Statistics put average annual spending for consumer units in 2024 at $78,535. With big buckets like housing, food, transportation, healthcare, and personal insurance or pensions. That number is not homework. It is the room you are standing in. Most households are not starting with a clean whiteboard and a scented marker. They already have a monthly machine running, and the raise arrives while that machine is hungry. Delivery slips in, a slightly nicer car key slips in. A subscription slips in wearing sunglasses, because even recurring charges have confidence. Soon, the extra 500 is not a raise anymore. It is the amount required to keep the upgraded version of normal from wobbling. What takes the raise first is uncertain. The pressure is real, but your villain is not definitely coffee, cars, rent, or takeout. Lifestyle creep is often former luxuries becoming normal spending as income rises. And a raise can be absorbed by habits, subscriptions, housing, transportation, dining, or other upgrades. Next, you check the account and see why the trap is so quiet. Then, a few paydays pass, and the scary part is that nothing looks broken. The paycheck number is higher. The bank balance somehow has the same tired expression. You still open the app with one eye half closed, as if the checking account might leap out, wearing tiny boxing gloves. The mechanism is boring, which is why it works. Lifestyle creep is spending rising with income until yesterday's luxuries start feeling normal, or even necessary. A nicer takeout rhythm, another subscription, a transportation upgrade, a housing upgrade, dinners that used to be special, each one looks reasonable by itself. Together, they give the raise a forwarding address. It stops arriving as freedom and starts arriving as recurring obligations. That does not mean you did something outrageous. A raise can be absorbed by ordinary monthly commitments, and from inside the month, ordinary is hard to accuse. So watch the floor. If the new normal keeps rising under your feet, future you may need to enter before the next dollar learns to disappear. Then, future you walks in. Same face, slightly more tired, holding two versions of the same paycheck. Future you does not look angry, just familiar, like someone who has watched a delivery app become a roommate. In the first timeline, the raise bought a nicer normal, not evil, maybe pleasant. But every month, the money arrives and leaves already assigned to habits, upgrades, subscriptions, housing, transportation, dining, or other permanent monthly obligations. That is the trap. Once the raise becomes recurring spending, it stops feeling like a raise. There is less room for surprise, less room to quit something bad, less room to say yes to something good. In the second timeline, you still spend some of it. You are not living under a bridge to impress a calculator. But a piece gets protected first. Savings, investing, debt reduction, or emergency reserves. This example is illustrative, not a guarantee. The next move is watching that protected piece leave before the spending apps can flirt with it. Payday hits again, and this time the raise does not get a full tour of your checking account. Before the apps can smell fresh income, an automatic transfer grabs a chosen piece and moves it out of the spending lane. The move is not complicated, it is just weirdly hard because present you is persuasive and often holding a menu. Maybe the protected piece goes to savings, maybe investing, maybe debt reduction, maybe a cushion so the next annoying bill does not become a crisis with a logo. That order changes the pressure. If the money sits there, it has to survive tired Thursdays, group chat plans, subscriptions, housing upgrades, transportation upgrades, dining upgrades, and every notification whispering, "Treat yourself, coward." The exact choice depends on the household, and this example is illustrative, not personal advice. But when any part can be protected first, future use stays in the room. Next, the quiet receipt shows what a repeated 500 can become over time. Now, the quiet part gets loud enough to see. The receipt unrolls in your hands. $500 a month, 30 years, compounded monthly. The mechanism is not mystical. It is the same basic setup a compound interest calculator is built around. An initial investment, a monthly contribution, time in years, an estimated rate, and how often compounding happens. Change those inputs, and the ending number changes. Using this simple monthly example, $500 a month for 30 years comes out to about $416,000 at 5%. At 7%, about $610,000. At 8%, about $745,000. Those are examples, not promises. Real returns do not arrive in a neat little line wearing a tie, and a calculator cannot know your actual future. But the receipt is still useful because it gives the invisible trade a shape. The same monthly amount can look small on payday and enormous on a 30-year receipt. Jump forward 30 years. Not to a private island, we are not doing yacht confetti. Jump to a normal Tuesday where options matter. And future you is looking at what the raise actually left behind. On the left path, the raise did not explode. It just blended in. Spending rose with income and former luxuries quietly became normal bills. The nicer default pulled up chairs, signed little monthly leases, and started calling itself life. So more money came in, but more normal costs grew around it. The floor got higher, the room got crowded, and the stuck feeling found new furniture. Very rude interior design, honestly. On the right path, you did not skip joy. You simply protected part of new income before habits answered. Some to savings, investing, debt reduction, or emergency reserves. That can help preserve future options. The $500 timeline is illustrative, not a promise, and it does not make rent polite or solve every hard season. Next, the vote happens again. When new money arrives? So, when the next raise shows up, do not let the first week sprint ahead. The email lands, the number looks bigger, and the room gets crowded. Rent thoughts, grocery relief, a trip tab, a car idea, subscriptions waving like they were invited. The quiet move is not to hate spending, it is to slow the table down. Let the needed stuff speak first. Let relief speak too. Then pull up one chair for future you, before lifestyle creep fills every seat with permanent monthly obligations. If new money is not assigned on purpose, normal life can assign it for you through recurring spending. And normal life has excellent handwriting on invoices. Maybe you protect a small piece, maybe you protect a lot. Maybe this season the win is simply not making every upgrade permanent. The numbers here were illustrations, not promises. If this made your next raise feel less mysterious, like and subscribe to Stick Finance. In the comments, if your next raise showed up tomorrow, what part would future you get before lifestyle creep gets a vote?